Welcome to Sam Outside. I'm Sam and I'm outside. Taking a moment this morning, best part of my day. Yeah, that's right. Taking the smells, taking the sounds, taking the sights, taking the feeling of the moving air around me, taking time to breathe. That's right. Practicing breathwork is at the core of mindfulness practices. And when I offer the invitation of doing sensory work with myself, but also with guests as part of a certified forest therapy walk, once we go through a land acknowledgement and have an opportunity for folks to acclimate what it is to walk slowly and mindfully and with intention in the forest, we'll take a moment and stop, spread out a little bit, and practice some sensory work, some mindfulness, some connections with nature. And we'll do that typically with our eyes closed, as our eyes are an extension of brain tissue, and they are our most dominant sense. So with our eyes closed, we'll do some breath work. And at the core of that is setting a foundation through box breathing, right? So it's a deep inhalation for 4, hold for 4, and a deep exhalation over 4, holding at the bottom for 4. And then another cycle of that, so 4. Holding for 4 at the top, and a complete exhalation of 4 at the bottom end. We're going to hold again for another 4. And we'll do that. And we'll keep going through that breath work for cycles. And as we move on through the other sensory work, we'll invite to do the rest of our sensory work with our eyes closed. And continue with that breath work. Calm, slow, intentional breathing. But then we'll smell. And this morning, and there's a little bit of a coolness, a dampness to the air. So smelling the forest floor, smelling the coniferous trees, there's a sweetness in the air. I happen to be in a mixed forest where there's a lot of yellow birch, balsam, hemlock, cedar, spruce, a lot of maple. I am getting a sense of all that greenery. And with our eyes closed, move on to the things we hear. Start with what you're hearing most close to you. And in listening, we might find the chatter of the birds and their morning calls to each other, finding food, finding others of their own kind, maybe warnings of your presence, and what sounds are coming from us from farther away. Again, might be distant bird call. Unfortunately, it might be the sound of traffic, but that's all right. Focusing on the sounds that bring you pleasure, the ones that stand out. And with your eyes closed, continuing, focusing on the sensation of air moving over. Maybe it's how the forest breezes moving over your skin. Others might focus on a little bit of what their body is going through, what they feel through their feet, through their legs. Maybe focus on releasing that tension that's in their upper back and their shoulders. Feeling their own calm. And with our eyes closed, still breathing deeply, there is an ability to taste. So the invitation here is to continue to do breath work, but on the inhalations, exposing the tongue slightly, almost tasting what's on the air. Now, in my practices, if I can do this near water, there's definitely more of a scent. It comes with water, maybe different tastes on the air. And again, continuing with eyes closed, I'll invite guests to look up slightly and use their hands to frame in their perception, and then open their eyes and just gaze for a couple moments. Now finally eyes open, and that slight upward, looking at the fractals of light as they come through the treetops and the canopy. Right? Noticing the contrasts, light and shadow. Right? All while being still and calm. And that is at the core the key invitation to begin the sensory work and the deeper connection with self and others in the forest through sensory work. The next series of invitations, as you continue through a guided experience in nature, will then go through those other connections with elements, such as water, such as land, other living things, through sensory work, through touch, through smell, through exploration of what they see and feel, spending time with water, of course, and finding other nature connections. And again, most of it is based on what draws them pleasure, what builds curiosity. And toward the end of a guided forest therapy walk, there is an opportunity to participate in a sit spot, finding a tree or a specimen or a place, maybe it's a rock or a location near water, where a participant can sit still and be immersed. Go through their own sensory work, go through their own mindfulness practices, their own meditations, if you will, some affirmations, some gratitudes, speaking with that tree, with that unique specimen that's drawn their attention, their focus, that they're maybe leaning against, that they're sitting under. And toward the end of that, at the end of every invitation, there's an opportunity to come together as a group and hold counsel and to share. What I noticed was, right? And that experience in nature can last anywhere between 2 and 3 hours, not covering a lot of distance, but it's the mindfulness in the slow pace, in the intentional direction, the scaffolded curriculum of all sharing all aspects, or as many as possible, of self, connecting with others, connecting with nature. And for me, sharing a big part of that with that guy, all right? Believe it or not, there are a number of publications about experiencing nature and forest therapy, forest bathing, Shinrin Yoku, with your four-legged friend, experiencing the world they do, being driven by their senses, most predominantly smell, and what they hear, and that'll drive their direction in exploring the world with genuine curiosity, interest for what other living things they might have a connection to. Right? So if you've got a four-legged friend and happen to be out in nature, try letting them guide you. You'll be surprised at what draws their attention and where you go from there. But at the core is breath work, taking those opportunities to intentionally go back to your breathing. Nasal breathing if you can, right? Taste the air when you can. Taking the smells, the sounds, and the sights of nature. Right? We do this because it heals, lowers cortisol levels, improves creativity, improves memory, improves the quality of your sleep. And in a mixed forest, exposure to coniferous trees and the phytoncides that they exude connect with your own body's immune system. So it's all the science of being mindful. Bird song, sound of water, they're all calming, they're all natural. So please go outside. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate your time. Talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.